Hello everyone, welcome to this in-depth Python learning series. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the basic data types of Python as well as some of the arithmetic operations that you can use in Python. So let's get started with two basic number data types. So they are integers and floats. Integers are basically whole numbers, for example 34, 2, 3, and then floats are numbers with decimal points in between them, for example 5.6, 3.1, 0.0. So these all are floats. So if you want to perform some arithmetic operations, you can just call out some operators like plus, minus for the function that you want to perform. For example 2 plus 2, that gives out 4. Then we have 5 into 3, that gives out 15. Then 6 minus 2, that gives out 4. 6 divided by 2, that gives out 3. But the thing here is, in Python 3, if you divide an integer number by another integer number, you will still get a floating point number, as you can see over here. So keep that in mind. In previous version of Pythons, like in Python 2.7, I think the result will be an integer number. So just notice that when you're performing these operations. Then other operations are exponential. For example 2 exponential 4, that's 16. Then there's modulo, which is remainder. I'll explain that. So 10 modulo 2, that gives out 0. That means the remainder is 0. And if I put 11 over here, the remainder is 1. Then let's talk about the order of operation. So if you know the BODMAS rule, you're pretty familiar with it, but let me go through it once. So over here, according to the BODMAS rule, so first of all 3 into 5 will be calculated first in Python. So that's 15, then 2 will be added, then 2 will be added, so that's 17. And then if you want to multiply 2 plus 3 and 5 plus 2, then you have to put parentheses over these. So now that looks something like this. So 2 plus 3, that's 5, into 5 plus 2, that's 7, that's 35. So that's all there is to arithmetic operations using integer and floats. So for floats you can just use the floating numbers and perform the same operations. So that still gives a floating number as an output, where here the integer number was given as an output. So keep that in mind. Now let's talk about strings. So this is another data type in Python, where the value is actually written within 2 double quotation marks or 2 single quotation marks. For example, this is a string. So this is a string, and this is also a string. So you can also put single quotation marks within double quotation marks. I'll show you how. For example, I can't go. So here's one single quotation marks, and then there's 2 double quotation marks. This is still a string. And then we have the assignment operator for a variable. So here var is the variable name, and then I'm going to assign it to a string to the variable var. So for example kofefe, that's the best I can come up with right now. So this is assignment, and if I call var, that's kofefe. Now there's a thing called indexing in strings, where the first letter is actually the first index of the string. So this C over here represents the index 0. So if I call var 0, then it gives me C, and if I call var 1, it gives me O. So the indexing goes on from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. So now with this knowledge I can do slice notation. So if I call 0 and colon, then run it, the entire string will be shown. That means I'm going from the first index to whatever is the ending. So to make it more clearer, var, let me go from 0 to 2. So here you can see that I'm actually going from index 0, that is C, to O, which is index 1. But although I've written 2 over here, the index 2 is not being printed. That means that in this slicing notation, the index 2 is actually excluded. So keep that in mind, and let me show you another example. For example, I can call 2, which is in this case V, and then I can call 5, so VFV, that's 2, 3 and 4. So there's that. Now let's move on to list. So list is a pretty common data type and you'll be using this a lot. So you'll also be using integers and floats and strings, but list is something that I'm very close to, and I guess you'll be familiar with it too when you go into more data processing works and more complicated stuff. So get the basics down right first. So list looks something like this: 1, 2, 3. So this is a list, and this is also a list. So you can see that I've enclosed strings within this square bracket, and this also represents a list. Now I can assign it to, suppose my list equals to 1, 2, 3, and just as I did with strings, I can call the index numbers. So if I call my underscore list and 0, it gives me 1. So if I call my underscore list and then 0 colon, it gives me 1, 2, 3. So that's another thing that is quite similar with strings and list. Then if you want to add elements to the list, you can use the mylist.append method. So just use the append method and put the value that you want to add at the end of the list. So if I put D over here, then my list will look like this. So that's 1, 2, 3, D. So keep that in mind. Then let's talk about changing the value of the index. So if I want to change the value of the index, for suppose 1, I want to change it to changed. So now I choose my list 0, which is 1, and then equals to changed. So the outcome will be my list that's changed to 3D. Now in Python you can have nested lists. So an example of that would be equals to 1, 2, then another list, suppose 3, 4. So how indexing works in this case is that if I call nested underscore list and then move to the second index, this is 0, 1, and this a whole is 2. So if I call 2 over here, so that gives me 3 and 4. And again, if I want to get 4, suppose I can just call 0 and 1, that's 0, and then this is 1. So if I call 1, that gives me 4. So this is how you can get values inside, get values which are inside of the nested list. So keep that in mind. And for today, I think I'll have to stop with this much. I'll get more content in next time, so do subscribe. And if you have any questions, any simple thing, anything that you do not understand, just write it out in the comment section and I'll reply to you. So yeah, tada.